and then the economy was 16 and education 16. So we'll see if the Finance Minister can do any better. And I call Doug Beattie.
Ciarán Cóide. The final budget provided earmarked funding to the Department of Health for reducing waiting lists, reflecting the programme for government commitment. Funding for PSNI is primarily a matter for Minister of Justice, including the indicative June monitoring allocations. Budget 25-26 provided the Department of Justice with a resource budget of some £1.425 billion, which is the highest budget settlement they have ever received. Of this, some 95% was on ring-fence, providing significant flexibility in the management of its budget. The PSNI also benefit from £37.8 million of Treasury earmarked funding for national security. It's now for the Justice Minister to determine how best to use the budget provided for her department against the competing priorities she faces.
Mr. Beattie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Minister, for your answer. Minister, we know that health was in a desperate position, so you ring-fenced money for waiting lists. The PSNI are in a desperate position, and I welcome the £5 million you have given them in regards to the riots which they needed. But will the Minister take proactive steps to fund the PSNI properly in the absence of the Justice Minister having them as a priority?
Thank the member for his question. As I said, it is first and foremost a matter for the Justice Minister. I am hoping to meet the Justice Minister tomorrow to discuss the recent business case that was submitted by the PSNI to her department, then onwards to my department. That business case has been approved, but there's still affordability issues. I believe this matter is best dealt with as part of the 3-year budget period, which I am now entering into, and in discussions with all departments. I accept, in principle, there is a case for further funding to the PSNI, particularly in relation to recruitment and retention, and I will do everything within my power to do that. But as I said during the earlier statement, the first question I ask anyone coming looking money off the executive is this: what can you do to help yourself? And I'll be asking the same question of the Justice Minister and the PSNI.
Philip Brett.
Thank the Minister for his update. Obviously, the Minister for Health made a bid for ring-fence funding to tackle waiting lists. Can the Minister confirm if the Department of Justice, through the Justice Minister, has put forward a business case requesting ring-fence funding for the PSNI?
Sure.
The history to the ring-fencing of waiting lists is as a direct result of a commitment in the programme for government, and that funding bid was made by the Health Minister that commitment was made in the programme for government by the Health Minister. I can confirm that the Minister for Justice has brought forward a bid for ring-fencing for the PSNI. That may well happen as part of the 3-year budgetary programme that we're currently entering, and the discussions that are ongoing with executive colleagues currently at official level will certainly be around the executive table in the near future. As I say, in principle, I support more funding going towards the PSNI, but the question remains, what can they do to help themselves?
Mark Durgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and was pre-legislation Ira Bohanya na Fragri. Could you thank the Minister for the answers until now? Last week's violence showed us just how quickly our police service can be strained to breaking point, and we know the Chief Constable was pretty critical of the budget. I welcome that you're meeting the Minister for Justice tomorrow on this issue, but would the Minister also maybe commit the meeting with the Chief Constable to hear from him, or maybe suggest to him what he could do better to make the money that they have go further?
Sure.
It would not be normal practice for me as Finance Minister to meet the Chief Executives of the various arm's-length bodies and public bodies that other ministers have responsibility for. I have committed to meeting the Justice Minister. I will sit down with the Justice Minister and discuss that. And if the Justice Minister suggests I should meet the PSNI Chief Constable and she's comfortable with that, I would be comfortable with that as well. But first and foremost, I think we have to respect the role of the Justice Minister in this matter.
Owen Tennyson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister, for your answers so far. Minister, can I just ask in relation to your discussions with Treasury, was there any specific discussion on the issues of funding for policing and justice in Northern Ireland?
Sure.
The Holtham report examined the issue of policing and justice here and what weight it carries in terms of our overall level of need, and that formed part of our deliberations with the Treasury and the settlement we reached with them.
Pat Sheehan.
Dull.
I am delighted that over £25 million has been awarded from dormant assets funding under the public direction set by my department to increase capacity, grow resilience and encourage sustainability of the voluntary and community sector. Earlier this month I attended the launch of the Digital Futures Report, made possible by dormant assets funding delivered through the National Lottery Community Fund. Voluntary community and social enterprises are at the core of our communities, doing incredible work to improve the lives of some of our most vulnerable people, some of our most vulnerable people. Equipping them with the right digital skills and support to enhance the valuable services they provide, particularly in improving the health and well-being of people, can only be welcomed. In February 2025, I approved the development of the third phase of the fund, which will be announced tomorrow. It will support voluntary and community organisations across the North to be stronger and more resilient to deal with future challenges.
Mr. Sheehan.
Could the Minister tell us if this fund has been successful so far?
I think it has, and the independent evaluation of Phase 1 of the Dormant Assets Grant Programme has been ongoing since November 2023. An interim evaluation report was published in July 2024, and a second interim evaluation report was published in January 2025. The evaluations to date confirms the continuing success of the grant programme in strengthening third sector organisations. Many reported outcomes and impacts are directly attributed to the grant funding. Grant holders either reported they would have not achieved the outcomes at all without the grant, or not the same quality, pace and scale. So this highlights to me that this funding programme has been successful.
Patsy Midlone. Minister.
I welcome the sustainability report from the Fiscal Council and thank them for their work on this. While the report is very comprehensive in its coverage of the history and current funding model of NI Water, the options provided to support greater investment are limited. Indeed, the report highlights the complexity of the issue. In my previous role as Infrastructure Minister, I was clear that the challenges with water infrastructure are a consequence of underfunding for basic public services over many years, and the solution does not lie in introducing water charges and charging hard-pressed workers and families for an essential public service. The Executive's Budget 2025-26 recognised the importance of NI Water, providing it with £105.7 million from RIR borrowing. Following the Chancellor's spending review announcement on the 11th of June, I will bring up proposals to the Executive on a multi-year budget covering 3 years for Resourcedale and 4 years for capital. This will allow for more long-term and strategic planning.
Thank the Minister for that. Minister, I did hear your interview there recently, but the absence of adequate investment in the infrastructure is causing serious problems with the new build programme for social housing, for the private housing new build, and indeed it's affecting the market by way of the existing houses that are there. It's putting the price of them up. When will we see the actual proposals that you have for the developer's charge, Minister?
The member will appreciate they're no longer my proposals, that the current Infrastructure Minister is bringing those proposals forward. I understand the consultation ends towards the end of June, and then at some stage beyond that, the Infrastructure Minister will bring forward the relevant information to assume to the Assembly or to the Committee.
Matheson.
Mr. Speaker, can the Minister outline what discussions he's had with the Infrastructure Minister around the need for a new funding model for NI Water?
Minister.
I've had no discussions with the Infrastructure Minister in relation to a new funding model. I have had discussions with the Infrastructure Minister in relation to increased funding for NI Water and engagement with me in relation to how the Executive can support her and her department in bringing that forward.
Boylan.
Thank the Minister for his answer so far, but could I ask the Minister what steps has been taken to provide NI Water with multi-year funding?
As with all arm's length bodies, government companies, etc. We can only provide multi-year funding as to when the spending review allows us to do so, and the announcement on Wednesday by the Chancellor in Westminster allows us as an executive to bring forward a multi-year funding package, and that will also then allow the Infrastructure Minister to provide NI Water with a multi-year budget as well. So a multi-year budget, and across our budgets we're still in a constrained period, but the advantage of a multi-year budget is that you're able to plan in a more strategic way rather than year to year, which benefits organisations such as NI Water.
Ruskin.
Speaker, question 4.
Minister.
I visited Warrenpoint Banking Hub on the 10th of April to see firsthand how the services it provides are supporting the local community there. At the visit, I also met with local banking representatives who operate out of the Warrenpoint Hub and Cash Access UK, who oversee their rollout. I pressed them on the need to urgently increase the rollout of these hubs for other areas impacted by bank closures. I also highlighted the disparities in locations of these hubs, especially for rural areas like Fermanagh and Tyrone, where there are currently none. Last week, I also addressed the Financial Conduct Authority's reception in Belfast to mark the launch of its new 5-year strategy and raised the importance of maintaining access to cash in rural areas. I am deeply concerned about the impact of bank branch closures are having on local communities, particularly in our rural towns and villages. While I do not support bank closures, and they should only take place as a very last resort, these banking hubs ensure there is still some level of banking presence in rural towns and villages for customers, while also bringing people into our local towns centres. It's important the banking sector rolls out these in impacted areas at speed, and I will encourage communities to request a cash access review directly with Link if they face difficulties accessing cash locally.
Mrs. Erskine.
Thank the Minister for his answer. It's really important for rural areas. I was disappointed that Link, they did a reassessment on Lisnaskea, which is an area that I've raised a number of times in this chamber, who is without banking services and need a banking hub. And unfortunately on Friday I got news that Link has not changed its decision, so I'm asking the Minister to step in. There is a crisis here in terms of access to banking services within Fermanagh and South Tyrone. Will he step in as Minister and support the calls that Fermanagh and South Tyrone is treated as a special case and that we do receive that equality of banking services in our area?
The member will be aware that the Executive and indeed the Assembly has no direct locus over the banking services, but I am more than happy to make representations to Link in regards to this matter. I heard the news myself in relation to the second call being torn down. I think it's hugely disappointing, and I will make representations to Link in regards to that and call on them to ensure that areas such as Fermanagh and Tyrone are represented and have equal access to cash the same as other areas.
Finnegan.
Minister, how does an area qualify for the banking hub?
Areas make an application through Link, and they will assess the needs of the area, but in relation to what access there has been or previously was, and to ensure that communities have access to cash. However, as the previous questioner has raised, when you have a large rural community such as Fermanagh and also Tyrone, that have one in Tyrone that has been turned, or sorry, in Fermanagh, that has been torn down, it is disappointing, and I will be raising this issue with the banking systems.
Paul McGrath.
The Minister also accept as well that there can be a problem where these hubs can be in towns where there is no banking provision. If there is one bank left, it does mean that disproportionately they're having a bigger slice of the pie of local people, and that's not good for competition. And would that be something that the Minister might raise in discussions where there may be an opportunity for some hubs in bigger areas where there's only one bank remaining?
Mr.
Well, I think in terms of particularly in the banking system, regulated competition is a good thing, and to ensure that the public do have access to different services and different bankings, and making sure that they are getting quality and for their money and the services they seek off a bank. So yes, I'm more than happy to raise that when I'm raising the issue around Fermanagh as well.
Trevor Clark.
With the Speaker's permission, I will answer question 5 and 15 together, and I request an additional minute to respond. In 24-25 rating year, a record-breaking $1.6 billion was collected directly from ratepayers, the largest amount ever collected in a single rating year, providing much-needed funding for our public services. This has been achieved despite difficult financial climate following the COVID-19 pandemic and the cost of living doing business crisis. At the close of the 24-25 rating year, $180.9 million in rates remain due for payment. This represents a 0.2% increase compared to the previous year's figures. However, this slight increase must be viewed in context of the overall value of collectible rates rose by 6% in 24-25. The $180.9 million is a cumulative figure of rates carried forward from previous years. It comprises $84.9 million from 24-25, $96 million from earlier years that included the pandemic period. It's worth highlighting that the $180.5 million in rates carried forward in 24-25 was reduced by 47% down to $96 million through ongoing billing and collection activities, a significant achievement. Land and Property Services remain committed to collecting unpaid rates and continues to take proactive steps to do so. These ongoing billing, collections and recovery processes are designed to maximise rate collection. To maximise rate collection, ALPS will make arrangements with ratepayers that will mean that all rates are collected within a single rating year due to payment arrangements extending to future years. However, for persistent non-payment, ALPS will pursue legal recovery actions. In conclusion, I urge any ratepayers having trouble in paying their bill to contact ALPS as soon as possible. Payment arrangements can be made for historic unpaid rates, and ALPS can assist by offering direct referrals to support services such as Make the Call and Advice NI Debt Management Services.
Mr. Clark.
Minister, for that answer, and if I heard you right, you said that it represented a 0.2 increase on what was outstanding. You actually haven't told us what the percentage of the total amount of rates is outstanding. But do you think, Minister, given the length of time that it's taken to get this in order, that it's fair where people who are suffering with difficulties in terms of financially continually make it a priority for them to pay their rates? And in the same hand, there's those continually flaunt the rules to avoid paying them. Because actually, if I take those two figures, a historic figure of $96 million doesn't suggest that the department is doing much to recover that.
Minister.
Well, I'll clarify in writing the point you raised at the start, just in terms of what percentage it is of the overall rates. I'll clarify that in writing. But it is, anyone who is persistently avoiding paying their rates will end up being brought to court. That's the reality. But it also has to be remembered that there's many instances where people who aren't paying their rates or aren't paying their rates in full are facing strident financial difficulties, including small, medium enterprises and domestic properties. And we try and work, or the LPS tries and work with those people to ensure that we put in place a fair rates recovery programme to bring the rates in. But as one figure that is clear there has been an increase in terms of the overall value of collectible rates rose by 6% in 24-25. So we are collecting more rates than we did previously, except there is an historical deficit there that continually needs to be challenged, and there needs to be both compassion and cooperation from LPS with those who are willing to return or pay their rates, but there also needs to be court action with those people who refuse to. And that's the balance that those who are collecting rates have to achieve on a daily basis.
Alfred.
I thank the Minister for his answers so far on this very important issue. And I suppose, Minister, you say that there's an increase of 6%, but surely that's just rates bills increasing, or rates bills increasing. With regards to the areas that seem to be persistent non-payment, is there any particular industries or areas that the Minister sees there being a problem in, and what is he doing to bring fairness to the system?
I don't have any specific figures or lists in front of me that would suggest that there is a particular problem in one or other areas, but if that is available, I'll ensure the member receives that. I think ALPS has a focus on this, and I've met with ALPS on a number of occasions. On each occasion I meet, this issue is on the agenda, where we press home the need to ensure that all rates are collected and it's done in a fair and compassionate way. I believe they get that. They are taking measures to do so. They are putting in place measures which ensure that where people can pay their rates, they're collected, and where we can put in a programme of repayment, it is put in place. We're always, unfortunately, running into people who refuse, who work the system in such ways, and I've made it clear to LPS where those people exist and that there's no other alternative, then we have to bring them to court.
Ryan Kingston.
Speaker, question number 6.
Minister.
There's a long-standing commitment within the Fresh Start Agreement that the Executive can bid for a share of demonstrable Office of Budget Responsibility, verified fraud and error savings. A business case along with other information has previously been submitted to the Treasury. These discussions have stalled here, and I'm keen to progress this matter with the Treasury. I wrote to the Chief Secretary of Treasury on the 20th of April 2025 setting out a number of executive-specific issues to be considered, in which I reiterated the issue of fraud and error and my desire to make progress in this area. I have asked my officials to pick up these conversations with the Treasury officials to continue to engage with the Department of Communities officials on this matter as well.
Mr Kingston.
Speaker, and I thank the Minister for that answer. And indeed, in a recent briefing to the Committee for Communities, we were informed that the estimated loss due to customer fraud, particularly across all benefits, in the year 2023 was £163.2 million, which is a substantial amount. The Minister's referred to that opportunity for us to retain an element of savings from fraud up to 50%, we were told at committee, by agreement with Treasury. So I would urge the Minister to continue those discussions. And is he hopeful that we will be able to achieve a result in this matter?
Well, dealing with the Treasury is a unique experience in that regard, but we have had some recent success, so I intend to build on that recent success and that working relationship we have built up with the Treasury around these matters. I think it is an important area where if we can have some of this money coming back into the Executive for usage, then we certainly won't miss the opportunity to make our case and make a very strong case to Treasury on this.
Colm Gildernew.
Minister, what action have you taken in the interim to aid with welfare payment delivery?
My understanding is that the Department for Communities is forecasting to pay approximately $10.4 billion in welfare benefits in 25-26. This funding is made available by Treasury as annually managed expenditure. As part of the budget 25-26, and given the concerns that the community ministers raised around the transition to universal credit, the Executive agreed to earmark an allocation of £16.9 million to the Department of Communities for benefit delivery. This allocation reflects their bid for this purpose and will ensure delivery of annual statutory payments and other support services, including employment support, and ensure social security parity with Britain.
Matthew.
Mr Speaker, Minister, I just want to understand, in terms of the Fresh Start proposal, it talks about verifiable savings that are verified by the OBR, and that doesn't appear to have been progressed over the past 10 years. But are you confident that we have not missed out on potential additional barnets here from actions taken by the UK government, which have in some cases penalised benefit recipients here? I'm slightly worried that we appear to have simply let this stall without pursuing it. Are you confident that we haven't missed out on significant savings that we should have been pressing for, or significant barnet consequentials?
I'm confident on the basis that we haven't been able to reach agreement yet with the Treasury in regards to this matter. This is a benefit to the Executive. The Treasury will see it as a loss to them. So it's trying. They have a point of view that I don't necessarily agree with, but they will come to the table saying, well, if we give you that, then we lose certain amounts, so that's a loss to the Treasury. So look, engagements have reopened. I'm pursuing the matter, and I will ensure that the needs of the Communities Department and the Executive are heard at the highest levels.
Mr McNulty.
I have been engaging with the Treasury and the Secretary of State in relation to the redevelopment of Casement Park. I welcome the funding from the British Government. This should give momentum to this important project, which is good news not just for Belfast but for the wider region. Casement Park is an Executive commitment of more than a decade and was reaffirmed in our programme for government. All partners should now work together to make progress. I am committing to do all I can to make sure that a stadium at Casement Park is delivered. Now that the outcome of the spending review is known, the Communities Minister should engage with all partners and set out how he plans to move the project forward. My department will shortly be starting work on developing the upcoming multi-year budget. That provides the Communities Minister with an opportunity to set out his capital requirements in terms of meeting any remaining shortfall in funding.
It was great news that the UK Government offered to pay £50 million for Casement Park, but that still leaves £90 million short of the projected cost. Can you commit now that funding will be made available to meet the difference, and if not, how much of the £90 million can the Executive meet to ensure Antrim Gaels and Ulster Gaels can have a stadium in West Belfast we can call home?
I'm mindful that my role is to protect the public purse, and in doing so I don't think it would be wise to negotiate in public or on the airwaves in regards to this matter. I believe the best way forward now is for all interested parties to get round the table and set out quite clearly what they're prepared to do to deliver this project. We've had a huge momentum behind the project now from last Wednesday and the £50 million, and I believe the way forward is for all the partners to get round the table and plan how we're going to finance the project and how the project is going to be delivered. And I'm confident that we'll be able to do this.
Thank you, Minister, for your answers so far. Could you outline to the House Minister, please, what engagement you've had with the other strand of funding requirements for sport that have been sat for over a decade, that of sub-regional stadia, with the Minister for Communities?
The Minister for Communities has made 2 bids in relation to the stadia, which, okay, I'll just give you the exact figure. So there was 2 bids, Matt. I understand one was around £5 million and the other one was around £2 million in 24, 25, 25, 26, and both of those bids have been met in full. I am committed to supporting all sporting organisations. As I said recently, I don't care who plays it, what shape the ball is, what size the ball is. I think sport's a good thing. So I'm prepared to work with the Communities Minister on all matters in regards to sporting organisations and how we as an executive support them.
Minister, all partners, as you said, do have a responsibility to get around the table to try and find a solution to the rest of the funding that's required. But you specifically, as Finance Minister, what can you do to try and ensure that the redevelopment of Casement Park will be delivered now that we'll have the funding from the British Government?
Well, I have, as you know, engaged with both the NIO and the Treasury in relation to this matter, and with others, secured the additional £50 million that's now on the table to move the project forward. But I believe the best way forward is for all the partners to get round the table and discuss this matter out. I've heard all sorts of projections about the cost of this stadium. Some might be right, some might be wrong. But until you sit down and engage with the partners, then you simply don't know. And it would be foolish of me, and indeed anyone on the airwaves, to start bidding or saying how much they're prepared to put on the table. I want to do that in partnership with others.
Remarks so far. Minister, we're utilising FTC, which of course requires to be repaid. Was there any approach to look at using the funding with the National Wealth Fund or the British Business Bank, which seem to be the alternatives, as been mentioned by HM Treasury, for looking at infrastructure projects?
The member will be aware that FTC takes on a number of different guises and is quite flexible in how it is used. So the issue of repayment is open to discussion, debate and engagement with the various partners around it. The use of the National Wealth Bank is again something that is open to engagement on and discussion around. It may well prove beneficial to the completion of the stadium, and I am aware of it, and it is in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about these matters.
Just our calls withdrawn. Gemma Dillon. Sorry, move on to topical questions. Your time's up, Minister. And our first topical is for Matthew O'Toole.
Mr. Speaker, Minister, just earlier on you appeared to dismiss the findings of the NI Fiscal Council that the current funding model for NI Water was unsustainable. We have a situation in which our biggest natural resource is becoming an open-air sewer, and your members voted against any meaningful action in terms of the Nutrients Action Programme. We have a situation where we can't build social homes. The executive is already falling way behind its delivery target in terms of social homes. All of these are linked to underinvestment in NI Water. Are you seriously here today telling us there's nothing at all wrong with the funding model for NI Water? Are you in denial?
Well, just for the record, I haven't dismissed the Fiscal Council's report. The Fiscal Council report doesn't actually make any recommendations. It also has to be noted. It does come to a number of areas where it has views on, which I would expect an independent body to examine fully. Of course they're going to examine whether there should be water charges directly paid by the members of the public or not. That shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody in the House. The question you have to ask yourself then is, should we place, and this is the figure I believe in the report, £590 per annum per household. Are you prepared to endorse that? That's the question. I have never heard the opposition bringing forward a proposal on how we move forward with NI Water. I support the current model. I support more funding going towards NI Water. I will, as Finance Minister, and I did as Infrastructure Minister, lobby very hard for more money to go towards NI Water. I also support the plans of the current Infrastructure Minister in relation to the Sustainable Drainage Bill, because we're sending hundreds of millions of cubic litres of water to wastewater treatment works we don't need to be sending there. So let's correct that. The Finance Minister or the Infrastructure Minister is engaging with executive colleagues around more funding for NI Water. I'll support her in that, and I support her in relation to her consultation in relation to developer contributions. I want to hear what your ideas are.
So with respect, Minister, you have some neck asking the opposition what its plan for NI Water is. For the past 15 months, you've been Infrastructure Minister and then Finance Minister. You haven't brought a plan yourself, Minister, so don't throw it back on the opposition. Lough Neagh has become an open-air sewer. It's our biggest natural resource. We can't build social homes. And last September, in your own constituency, Minister, in your own house, you admitted that there was an unpleasant smell coming from tap water. What will finally prompt you and the executive to take action on our water crisis?
The cheek of me to ask the opposition what their ideas are. It's really rude of me to do so. It really is. I'm sure the speaker may challenge me over at a later stage. So, the executive funds NI Water to the tune of £500 million every year. Quite a significant amount of funding going to NI Water already. I accept it's not the amount needed, but it is quite a significant amount of water. I've already set out to you three-pronged approach, which the DFI Minister is currently taking, and I'm supportive of in relation to NI Water. And we are building social homes. We're building around 1,000, confirmed this year, and I will work with the Communities Minister to ensure even more homes are built in this financial year. So I haven't given up on any of these issues. We have forwarded to the DAERA Minister £5 million to support him in relation to his Lough Neagh action plan, ring-fenced, therefore, to go forward. So there's a range of areas where we are supporting not only the environment, but NI Water and executive colleagues in relation to social housing. So I ask you again, at some stage in this House, you'll bring me a plan.
Danny Donnelly.
Can the Minister outline progress to date on the planned strategic rating reviews for 2025 to 2026?
Mr.
We're currently out to consultation in relation to a number of areas in relation to... One second. So we've completed our consultation in relation to the CAP and early payment. That report is on my desk and I'm studying it to see the way forward in that. And we're currently out to a number of items in relation to businesses and how we support businesses moving forward, and how we raise rates from businesses as well, it has to be said, moving forward as well. So there's a number of areas that have been completed and a number of areas we're currently or will be going out to consultation on shortly.
Does the Minister believe that the strategic rating review roadmap set out by his predecessor is still the best course of action to enable a much-needed comprehensive review of the rating system?
I think it is. I have said that perhaps we can expedite the timescales in some of them. So I have said that, but I do believe it is the best way forward.
Still isn't in her place, Militia McHugh.
When will the work start on the multi-year budget?
It has, in a certain extent, started where we're currently engaging with departments in relation to their sustainability plans and their 5-year plans, etc. But it will certainly intensify as we move forward, because I want to see a multi-year budget being presented to the executive in around December, an agreed budget at that stage, and then going out to consultation.
Minister, what benefits do you think that a multi-year budget will bring?
The benefits of a multi-year budget are this. I would prefer there was more money in the budget, I have to say, but in terms of being able to plan on a 3-year basis allows a wide range of our public services to ensure that they are able to look at transformation in a different way, because they know their budget over the next number of years, how they deliver services, where they deliver services and why they deliver services, and it allows them a longer term planning process. I would also like to be able to, in terms of pay, etc., work that into our 3-year budget, so our workers, the important people who deliver the public services, are aware of their pay scales over the remaining years of the budget as well. But that has to happen in discussions with the unions.
Okay. Outline whether the UK Treasury has provided a formal response to the cost of doing business report by the Ulster University Economic Policy Centre.
Minister.
I have not received a formal reply to date, but it did form part of the evidence pack I presented to them in relation to the comprehensive spending review.
Guy.
Thank you, Minister. What tangible actions can the Minister's Department take to mitigate some of the impacts on local businesses identified by the report?
Well, the report covers a wide aspect, as a member will know, in terms of the challenges and opportunities in relation to local businesses, but certainly the challenges. I will continue to engage with the local business sector about these matters. We have a number of consultations going on in relation to the rates and how they both impact negatively and positively on businesses, because services and support also comes from those rates to local businesses as well. And I've also shared the report with executive colleagues, so they are aware when they are engaging with the business sector or making decisions around the business sector that these are the challenges and opportunities they face.
Frank Hickson.
The Department for Finance is responsible for recruitment across all Northern Ireland civil service departments. What measures is the Minister taking to increase the rate of recruitment into civil service jobs?
Well, we are responsible for recruitment on the basis that when departments come forward to us seeking recruitment, we run the process for them and through Next HRS. So we run it through that way. But in terms of the level of recruitment required within each department, it's a matter for each department.
Mr. Kingston.
To the Committee for Communities, we were told that 2,551 declared vacancies exist as of March 2025, which is over 20% of all posts in that department. So while recruitment has increased over the past year, so has the number of vacancies. So given that his department is responsible for the recruitment exercise, can the Minister commit that we will see a reduction in the number of vacancies in future reports?
Minister.
It all depends on the number of applications that come forward from communities, or the number of job for advertisement that comes home from communities, and they will have to make a decision as to whether they can afford those recruitment practices as well. That's a decision that has to be made. This also has to be said that there's also difficulty recruiting in terms of a workforce and very low unemployment rates as well. You know, we are trying to recruit in an employment market that is quite vibrant, and there's options for many people in relation to that. employment market, and people make decisions where they apply to and for jobs. So those challenges exist as well in filling the posts, but it's up to each department to bring forward a recruitment programme, and they have to make a decision as to whether they can afford that recruitment programme.
Nick Matheson.
Mr Speaker, can the Minister provide an update on the budget sustainability plan?
Sure.
We are continuing to work our way through the budget sustainability plan. I announced earlier that as part of the returns that the Treasury and the British Government are no longer requiring us upon confirmation that of those returns, that they were requiring a repayment of around £500 million. That was part of the package for returns, so that is a good thing. I think while we still have challenging times ahead of us, that we are in a more financially stable position than we were at the restoration of the institutions.
Mr Matheson.
Mr for his answer. Have targets associated with the plan been tracked since its publication to ensure that there's confidence in its delivery?
Sure.
I'm not sure if actual targets have been published, but in terms of the budget sustainability, the proofs of the pudding's in the eating. And as I said, our returns show that we now have a stable budget, in the sense that we have cleared what should never have been a debt, but was classified as a debt by the British Government, should never have been classified as a debt in my opinion. That is now, upon confirmation of our returns, which I'm confident will be cleared, that we no longer have that debt. So we are sustainable in that sense, and we've made the necessary decisions to be sustainable, but I will still make the case that this executive needs more funding for its public services.
John Mulholland.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, can you provide an update on your department's work on the review of the regulation of property management companies?
I recently met with officials in regards to this matter, and it is an area of work I am interested in continuing with. But as with many departments, we have limited resources and have to prioritise what programmes of work we can realistically bring forward in this mandate. I have asked my Permanent Secretary to bring me forward a paper on this matter, what cost it would be to bring the programme forward, and if I do bring this programme forward, what impact that would have on other areas of work within the department.
Ms Mulholland.
And thank you, Minister. Are you aware of any codes of practice or associated regulations that are specific to the operation of property management companies?
I think that, and I stand to be correct, and I'll follow up with the member in writing on this. When my department has lead in this, it may be other regulations in other departments which may cover certain parts and aspects of this work. I can explain to you my experience from my own constituency in engaging with property management companies, etc., and ensuring that those residents who, in many instances, are actually shareholders of the company, fully understand their rights and entitlements. And when the shareholders fully understand their rights and entitlements, then I think there is a more cooperative tone from the management companies in those cases. But I will share more information with the member in writing.
Minister, can I ask if you could outline the difference the relative funding methodology which you have agreed will make over the spending review period?
In financial terms, it will make around £600 million difference over the spending review period, and it was crucial that we were able to secure this agreement with the Treasury and separate agricultural funding from the formula, which as part of that it helped to secure that additional £600 million over the spending review.
Thank you for the answer and also obviously for the agreement. Can I ask just how important was Professor Holtham's work in the agreement reached?
Professor Holtham's work was crucial in my opinion to securing this agreement. He is very, very highly regarded across these islands for his work in this field, and particularly in his work in relation to a similar funding model for Wales. He is respected by the Treasury and others, so it was important to bring that independent, respected voice to the table for the engagement.
Minister for his replies. Can the Minister outline what plans are in place by his department to ensure building control regulations make provision for electric vehicle charging points at new dwellings?
Minister.
I'm not aware of any plans at this time, but I will follow up with the member in writing.
Thank you for that. You have exceeded the previous 16s. You got 19, Minister. So little more work to do, but certainly an improving picture. We now move on to an urgent oral question.